The Saints Row reboot was a game nobody asked for and was such a massive disaster for Embracer and Volition that Volition ended up getting shut down, but we now have sales estimates for the game, which point to it being the lowest selling in the franchise's history. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. Now, we all automatically assumed that it was most likely the lowest selling in the franchise's history, given it led to the closure of Volition, but now that we're hearing an actual sales number, oh boy, it is really bad. This is a Video Games Chronicle article. It says, according to a LinkedIn post from a former Volition community and social manager, Tyron Stevenson, the game sold roughly 1.7 million units. It says if true, that would mean the reboot has sold less than every mainline entry in the franchise. Saints Row the Third is the highest selling entry at over 5.5 million copies, with Saints Row 2 managing 3.4 in the original game in the series, which was released only on the Xbox 360, sold over 2 million copies. Now, if it did sell 1.7 million units and it was priced at a $60 price tag, that would equal $102 million, so that means they did not even make the reported budget back, as it was reported to cost over $100 million from multiple sources we've heard. This is just one of the many from Games Radar. It looks like the Saints Row reboot ended up costing its parent company over $100 million. We, of course, have had many fan accounts and many supposed insiders come out and say this, but, aside from saying the cost is a well-known fact behind the scenes, they also pointed to publicly available financial data that showed the value of completed games in the July to September quarter being roughly $160 million, and the Saints Row reboot was one of the few notable releases for that period, so the user had believed it's not that bold of statement. And yeah, I think we always kind of assumed it was like $120 million budget, but even if it was, say, just 100 million exactly, that means they still made nothing on this game, and it was a complete wash for them. In Hollywood, companies need to make back double their budget and then a bit extra, and in gaming, it's said to be very similar, where companies want it to at least make double what they spent, and it most certainly did not get even close to that from what we're hearing, if yes, this 1.7 million units is to be believed. And of course, take everything with a grain of salt, right? But clearly, we have the financial statements, we have, of course, Volition being shut down, them completely, shelving this franchise, at least for right now. I mean, maybe one day we'll get another Saints Row game, but I just highly doubt it. And when we look at the other games within the franchise, this did not even really come close to any of the games, except for the original in the series, which sold well over 2 million copies, and it was only sold on one console, the Xbox 360, and they really were heavily marketing this Saints Row reboot as being a return to the roots of the franchise, and they were really hoping to bring back older fans of Saints Row and bring in a newer audience. But when we found out that it was going to be filled with cringeworthy hipster characters who looked like they were going to Starbucks for their pumpkin spice lattes, I think we all gave up very quickly. And then, of course, we had all of the drama surrounding it, like the community manager saying us criticizing the game was terroristic behavior, which of course was absolutely disgusting. And then several developers on the project saying, if you don't like it, don't buy it, and we don't need your support, we don't even want you to buy our game. And clearly nobody did buy this game, and nobody was giving it a chance, and we did exactly what they asked from us, because while current sales figures for Saints Row 4 aren't available, the game sold over 1 million copies in its opening week in 2013, meaning that it's very likely exceeded the 1.7 million sales of Saints Row in its lifespan, which, yeah, I mean, I think that is kind of a no-brainer. If in its first week of release, Saints Row 4 had sold over 1 million copies, yeah, I mean, it's probably over 2 million. I mean, we never got the confirmed numbers, but it's safe to make assumptions here. And it also, of course, says Saints Row, the reboot, received mixed reviews at launch. Oh, it received even worse than mixed reviews, that's for sure. If you go on over to Metacritic, as you can see, the critics gave it a 61. I do not trust critics. I do not look at critic scores when I'm taking into consideration if I'm going to buy a game or not, but the user scores is sitting at a measly 3.1. Most people who gave this game a chance absolutely despised it, and the few individuals that they actually wanted this game to appeal to did not show up, or the few that did, well, they didn't take the time and leave positive reviews saying this was fantastic because it's sitting at a 3.1. And it also says Embracer CEO Lars Wingefors previously said that he was personally disappointed by the reception to Saints Row when he spoke at a AGM in September 2022, and we also had heard him say a little bit after that that it was just all around a very disappointing project for them. They expected it to go better, and then we found out that Volition was closed in the Embracer restructuring. Volition was originally formed 30 years ago as Parallax Software Corporation before changing its name to Volition in 1996, and it is a crazy feat for a game to put a company that has existed for over 30 years out of business. That's how poorly so that meant that Embracer had absolutely no hopes that they could even salvage this franchise, that if they were given another chance magically, that they would not have been able to bring fans back. They would not have been able to make more money with this franchise. And of course, I've said it for a long time at this point. I think in like a decade, we'll probably end up getting another Saints Row game and they'll give it another go, whoever's hands it ends up in, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, and I definitely think that it really would be a risk anyway. I have loved Saints Row in the past, and I was very disappointed that they went in this like new, modern, cringeworthy direction, because they could have gotten so many people to buy a Saints Row that really went back to its roots. Even if they only included like 2 of the original Saints, people would have bought it, but instead they decided to throw all that to the side, and they decided to go in this new, modern direction for modern audiences, even though modern audiences don't exist. The closest group to that are sensitive snowflakes on social media who clearly did not support this game. And we did hear that there could have been a little bit of Deep Silver interference because Deep Silver wanted them to go in this direction, but they originally at Volition wanted to go back to their roots. Either way, the product that we got was an absolute monstrosity and did not deserve to be created. It was a waste of money, and from what we are hearing, it really did abysmally for them. It was likely the lowest selling in franchise history, and even though we've already assumed that given Volition's closure and the Embracer CEO saying it was a financial failure and it disappointed, it is good to hear other pieces of information pointing to this actually being the case. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.